guys, and welcome to Light Haven, the podcast for all things spiritual, mystical, and energetic. My name is Bianca, light worker and astrology enthusiast.
And I'm Ruth, mystery student towards the awakening of consciousness.
Now, today we have a special guest on the show. I had actually bumped into this person, Dave, who we bumped into each other at a funeral, and we got to talking about energy and Reiki, which I thought, oh, he'd be so good to have on the podcast to discuss his journey. It's definitely been a fascinating one and somewhat similar to my own experience in some ways. So I thought we could all learn something from him. So Dave, welcome. Great to have you here with us. I have a few questions. If you don't mind us to get straight into this, I can just get you started with a couple of questions if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Look, before we get started, I'd like to thank the elders of the land that I'm coming from. Part of the land is Ute, which is the indigenous peoples of Utah. And so the building, or where I'm currently operating out of, is part of the Ute clan. So I'd like to give thanks to the elders past, present, and in the future.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's one thing that I forgot to mention was that please let us know, where are you calling from?
The suburb is Inglewood, and its postcode is 90304 is the zip code. It's just in front of LAX. So when you fly into Los Angeles, you come across the Pacific, the plane does like a big U-turn and then comes in, and the wheels go down and it touches over the top of a suburb called Inglewood, and then literally lands, and then your plane is then pointing out towards the Pacific. And then when you take off, you literally take off and head away from Inglewood and then out over the Pacific. So it's Inglewood in South LA, California.
Can I just say that was a crazy and amazing introduction to your suburb. So fascinating. And I do not know how to introduce my suburb in such an awesome way. So hats off to you, Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, no, and that's awesome. And how long have you been there? Because you don't have the accent of the postal code. So do you mind sharing how long you've been posted there, or whatever you want to share? That's
started about 1997, my first trip. Mm-hmm. And then from literally about 2005 onwards, it's almost become my first home.
Well, I love that you've been able to retain the accent.
Thank you.
Nothing against the accent of the land over there, but just, you've definitely still got your local accent of New Zealand. Yeah, I'm happy to move on and ask you. Our first question is, what is Reiki and how does it work?
Reiki has a very long history. It's a form of energy healing. Nothing new about Reiki. Indigenous peoples across the planet have been using similar forms of energy healing for many, many hundreds of years. I know Indigenous Americans have used it on and off, and it has a different name, but Reiki has become synonymous with coming out of Japan, and that's where it was first founded. And then it has become now like a very alternative form of healing. And so it would fit in like an alternative version of healing. And really, to sort of talk about, it's about how energy is used through gentle touch. And so a Reiki practitioner would go through a series of workshops to be attuned, and then they become a Reiki practitioner. And the tuning process, I'll talk about it more later, is a lifetime thing. So once this is done, there's no such thing as switching it off or back on. It's tuned in for the practitioners the rest of their life. And then through the very basic level, which is known as level 1, is through touching. You physically have to be in contact with the other individual that you're going to work with. That's also, I'd like to add that Reiki is a complementary approach. Complementary just means it's almost useless on its own. It has to be stuck with something else. And so Reiki with a diet, Reiki with exercise, Reiki with mindfulness, Reiki with therapy, Reiki with medication, Reiki with advice from your doctor, your therapist, your psychotherapist, your chiropractor, works hand in hand, and it works together. Reiki as a mental health alternative is also really good. And this one I probably have to stress, but you have to take the advice of like your doctor before you try different, like a diet and Reiki. That would probably be the best way to describe Reiki in its simplest form.
And I like how you mentioned the gentle touch, because I know sometimes it's been described as like no touch, which is definitely an option too. But when you mentioned like the level 1 is the gentle touch, because that's definitely the way that I was taught as well, is that way. But then we get to the level 2, my understanding is that then we get into the long distance Reiki, which obviously you cannot do the gentle touch. And did you want to speak a little bit about the differences when you go up to the next level?
Yes. Yeah, look, I'll do that. Before we leave this particular topic, I'd just like to make sure that everybody knows that I'll just say the person or the individual that is receiving the Reiki, they don't have to take their clothes off. Their clothes are on, and practitioner is putting their hands on the individual. And let's say I was working on someone's shoulder. I don't have to take their clothes off so I can do it. I can actually put my gentle hand or hands on that person's shoulder. Now, it doesn't matter if before we say that, in Utah, about the first week of December, it starts snowing. By the third week, it's quite about a foot. And by Christmas, you have to dig your front door out. And so Reiki can be done in any type of weather. There's no restrictions to the physical version of it. Obviously, if someone's got a very big, thick jacket on, the Reiki can still move through the jacket. But if they were to take that off and they just had something light underneath, that's okay as well. That's probably a lot more beneficial. But you can pretty much do it with the person's clothes, and there's no restrictions to it. Hats, shoes, gloves. So let's go to your second question.
Well, just hearing that, when you said it can be done with their clothes on, that was a thought that didn't even cross my mind. But then I thought, oh yeah, because I get massage a lot, and I often get work done on my shoulders probably every 2 weeks. So when I go, they start off by having me seated, and I just go to the mall because it's easy to not have to need a booking. And then they put a towel over your shoulder, and they give you a press on your shoulder. And then they say, okay, now we're going to do the lying down part and move you over. And every time you have to take off your clothes, if you have a jacket or something, it's really inconvenient or annoying. But when I think of Reiki, in my understanding or my mind, it's energetic. So then naturally I would think, oh, of course it can go through your clothes because it's the energy. Now, this could be a layperson's misunderstanding, but I thought what I imagine is there's energy coming out of your hands that flows through the clothing to the respective body part that's being treated and goes into and does some realigning or assistance for the cells. But I don't know how accurate that is.
If I can add to what you say, and I'll give you an example. I was in New York City taking the subway to downtown because I was going to attend a therapy for the day. And it's cold, winter time, so most of the New Yorkers have got very big, what do they call it? Mohair, I think it is. Those jackets that are right down to your ankles. And if I'm standing in a queue or in the actual subway train and I have to lean on someone, it's okay. You can put your hand on their shoulder. They're okay with that as a form of support. I give that person Reiki whilst doing that, and it's just a thing that New Yorkers are okay with because the subway train's bouncing around and they're okay with that. If you haven't got a strap to hold on to, that's a given that you can do that. And so I can position my hand in a particular way, keep the fingers together, pull the thumb in so it's dead flat, put the hand on top of its shoulder and give that person a free Reiki, which will then, the energy will then enter their body and go to where it's needed. It doesn't have to be on a spot that they require. The energy will flow through and find where it needs to go to. Obviously, if you can get as close to the part that you want, that's even better, but there's no need to. It will go to where it's required.
Cool. That is awesome. Well, I'm understanding a lot more, even in these few minutes, how it works. It's so fascinating.
You don't have to physically touch the person. I could, if I wanted to, balance myself in the subway and then just use the Reiki hand and position it somewhere near the small of the back. I don't have to touch the person. The hand can be like an inch and a half away, and the energy will still go through that distance without any physical touch to the person in front of me.
It's a little bit
amazing.
As well like
acupuncture.
Yeah.
Also like pressure points as well. I was taught in my level 2 certification about just briefly, where if you're doing Reiki on someone's feet, they can sometimes feel it in other parts of their body. So that energy is distributing itself where it needs to go, and the different acupressure points speak to each other, even when you don't know what not saying you don't know what you're doing, but you're pretty much just a vessel for the energy to like a conduit. It's just working through you. And whatever part of the body you are working on, it's now in that person, and that's just going to work wherever it needs to work. It's magic. So
that's correct. The American Indian name for that is hollow bone. Has how they describe Reiki. It's like a hollow bone where the energy goes through the bone and comes out the other end. There's something they have in bone. What's that stuff they use that it's good for your
marrow?
That's it. Yes, very similar to marrow and eating marrow, and so they call it's hollow bone therapy. We even say it's Reiki. It's hands-on and
very
similar.
Energy.
Correct.
And so with the long distance Reiki, would you be able to explain a little bit about that concept? Because it was definitely blew my mind to think that we could intentionally send Reiki to someone who's not even in the same country as us, just through intention alone. So if you could draw on that a little bit, that I'm sure that'll be interesting to some people.
Okay. Before I do, let's close off the Reiki 1. So Reiki 1 is the first level that practitioners go through. There is a 6-month wait. Traditional. This is not set in stone. Traditionally, there is a 6-month wait before you go from Reiki 1 to Reiki 2. And that is so that as a practitioner, you can go out and do your practice of gentle hands-on for 6 months. And so what's the word for it? The expectation is you finish your Reiki 1 and then you head out and practice it and get some practice so that you're ready for Reiki 2. And so you have between 6 and 12 months. Minimum is 6. Then you go in for a second attunement known as Reiki 2. This one requires a little bit more work. So a traditional Reiki 1 would be a 2-day workshop. Can be done like a day and a half, but a nice, easy 2-day. Reiki 3 is masters as the top level. So 1, 2, and 3. So for 2, it's about a 3-day workshop. And in this, you get tuned in, become a Reiki 2 practitioner. You get some extra skills, and you're provided with some shaman type symbols that you will use, and some mantras. A mantra is just a voice. We are talking and it comes out, and you're given symbols to use. Reiki 2, in a nutshell, is very similar to a lot of theories that we have about time and space. Einstein came out with a theory called relativity, and so Reiki 2 is very similar to this. So if you are working with Reiki 2, I just want you to think, here's what I do. This is Dave's personal tip. Think about calendars and clocks. And once I've gone through my Reiki 2 attunement and come out the other end, I am provided with some different set of tools that I'm still going to work with, but now I don't physically need the individual in front of me. I can do all the stuff I need to by what they call absent healing. Absent by proxy is another word for it. That's where I can sit here like I am right now and go through a 5-minute process or mantra, a series of things to connect with the individual that I have agreed, or they've agreed to this session, and they don't have to be anywhere near me. In fact, they don't even have to be in my time zone or anywhere. They can be on any part of the planet. Now, this gets a little more wonderful because they can be anywhere in the universe. Makes no difference, though. On the moon, Mars, and a spaceship heading out to anywhere. Now, for this to work, I would like you to think about calendars and clocks. I would like to contact, say, Bianca or Ruth. The only way I can do that is I need some small pieces of information. First of all, your name and a contact number, mobile number. The more information I have, the better it is. So if my person who would like an absent healing, if they can send me a photo of themselves plus their mobile phone number and a time that they would like this, and then I can use that information to connect to them. So think about sending out a letter with energy and information that you want to heal somebody. It has to go through the post and find the person. We've got like 6 billion people on the planet. How are you going to find this one individual that you want to give some Reiki healing to? How are you going to do that? You need something. You need a small piece of information.
Like pull up like a picture of them as well when you...
A picture. The agreement would be between myself and the individual that wants this Reiki healing session. So they would naturally provide me with information. Or I would ask, what's your mobile phone number? I'm not going to ring it. I just need that number. And like this is Zoom, I can see your face. So I could say, look, do I have your permission? I'll take a screenshot. I can use that. I can even use the name that says Lighthaven Podcast and your photo. And the reason for that is when the Reiki energy leaves me and it is sent out into the world beyond my 4 walls of where I'm sitting, it is going to go somewhere and find you. And there is only one person who looks like Bianca with headphones and long hair in a home that's got white walls that has the name Lighthaven Podcast on their Zoom. There's only one person who has that. And so the energy is intelligent enough to go and find you. I can just use your photo as enough. A name is better and a photo because the energy is intelligent enough to go out and find that person. It's a little more complex. So I don't have that. The energy will still go out, but it may find more than one person. Another way to think about this, let's say we line up all the population of New Zealand. And you want to send...
Not many. There's not many of us.
We'd still make a long line, though.
It would. And let's just say you want to send some healing energy to someone called Ruth. You have a picture of her in your mind. You send that information, that energy, that healing energy out to Ruth. In this big lineup, there's only one person who's going to step forward to take it. That's the only person that the energy recognizes, because that is where the energy is going. And so the more information you have, you can work on it, but you can work on just very scraps of information.
I agree with that. Oh, you carry on.
Just a question
scrap
on
of
that.
Information.
When you said the person steps forward, is that because their agreement to receive it kind of lines up the puzzle pieces? So they've agreed to receive it and you're trying to send it to them. Therefore, they're, in this analogy, they're the person that steps forward in the line and the energy says, oh, that one, of course, because they stepped forward. Does that have anything to do with it? Their agreement?
That's a awesome sort of question. So the answer to that question is that Reiki energy has an essence that has not censored. It doesn't subscribe to human intervention, neither has it any censorship to it. It is a pure form of energy that is that naturally works on a wavelength beyond what we as humans comprehend. And so to answer the question you said, it works because that is the only person that the energy is going to, and so that person is the one that steps out or is identified, because the energy is working in a manner that is not censored by us as humans. And so naturally it is that person that is going to get it, because that's where it's destined for. And so it's almost an agreement between myself and, say, Ruth, if I was doing that. And so Ruth has no option. There's no censorship to this. She steps forward and claims that. Now, this is a beautiful thing about Reiki, is before I send it out, I say you have the choice to accept or reject this energy, but I'm still sending it to you.
Yeah.
Now, when it gets to you in that big line out, you can just stay in that line out and not step forward. It makes no difference. The energy is still going to come to you and you're going to say, no, I don't want it, but it's already entered into you. It's already gone into you. And you then decide what you want to do. You can reject it and send it out back to wherever it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but it is going to you first.
It is going to you first. It arrives. It's like I pick up my mobile phone, ring you. You have no option that you pick up the phone and say, yes, you can ignore it, but the phone is still going to ring.
Got it. And what about level 3? I'm so curious. So what's the difference in the master level?
So I'll just finish with the 2. So 2 finishes, and then generally it's a 1 to 2 year waiting, and then you'll then go to level 3, which is master's level. And the difficult part of master's level is I want you to think about going to your wardrobe, opening it and taking a look at what you've got in there. And this is one that I love asking the people I work with that I have to do some Reiki with as a level 2. And I just say, what's in your wardrobe? They'll describe, and it's either all pink, it's black, it's white, it's colors, it's brown, it's green. They'll give me a combination of stuff. Well, finding a Reiki master to teach you and take you under their wing is like that. It's a very difficult process to go find an individual who's already a Reiki master to show you and learn from them. But in order to do that, you need to know who you are first. What's your suit? What is the suit you wear? And what do I mean by that? Well, my job as a therapist, I work as a youth on the streets of LA. Tough job, gangs. I have to join the gangs. I'm part of the Crips gang in LA South. Oh, wow. We can't go past 110th Street because that's the Bloods area. There's maps that we are not allowed to go past, and we have to get permission, gang permission to enter.
Wear that blue bandana and the Bloods.
Yeah, the blue bandana is really a Crips trademark. And so I do the job because there's a word called vocation. It's my vocation, my gift, the thing I'm going to do probably till my last breath. I've chosen and I love to work, and that's my little part of my neighborhood on planet Earth, is to work in this little neighborhood of getting youth off the streets, out of the gangs and back into school, get an education, become good tax-paying citizens. Get a family, raise kids.
Law-abiding citizens.
Law-abiding citizens.
Contributing members of society.
Yes.
Can connect with people and share experiences and have human joy and, enjoy society and also give back as well. Because when our cup is full, that's when we have the bandwidth and capacity to give back. Of course, we got to pay our taxes because we drive on the roads. We use the roads.
So what I mean by find your suit is obviously you ladies have found your calling, your vocation, the thing that fits you, your suit, your Lighthaven podcast. And so, all your subscribers listening to this, your Reiki is a personal thing. You get the tools, which is like a driver's license, and then you have your choice of what car you want to drive and all the mod cons you can stick in your car. Whether it's a bomb or whether you want to go with the top of the range vehicle makes no difference. And Reiki is very similar. You get given some very simple road tools and license to practice, and then from there it is a personal vocation for you as to where you go and how you use it. And so you have to find that suit. Where are you going to go? Is this a business thing? Is it a personal? You just want to work with the domestic violence? You want to work with kids, elderly? You want to go to nursing homes? Do you want to work in a hospital? Do you want to be a nurse and use it? Do you want to do... I think it's... I can't think of the name of it. It's where people go when they get cancer. Unfortunately, it's their last stop. They have a name for that place.
Palliative care?
Palliative care, maybe that's what you want to do. It's I think the word we use this one is called free choice. You have free choice. You've given these little tools and you have free choice as to where and how you practice it. And so to answer the question you've put is Reiki 3 is difficult because you then have to go find someone who is on a similar wavelengths to you doing something similar, so they can put you under their wing and show you those specific things that are going to help you for your vocation, your little niche in the neighborhood, for your little piece of Reiki that you're going to do in, for humankind. If you get it wrong, that's okay. You just have to go find another one.
I see.
So it cuts down the legwork, I think we call this one. And there's a absolutely beautiful theory for this one, which is part of Einstein's theory, if I could share it with you.
Go for it, please.
So Einstein's theory of relativity is if I jump in a spaceship and leave the planet Earth, it's straight up and can go at the speed of light and then travel for a year and then come back down. Everybody on the planet has aged. Not me. I come back down and now everybody's 40 years older or 50 years older. Well, I say, gee, where you been for like 50 years? And I say, I only went for a year, came back. If I go in a straight line, straight up and down. Now, if I go on a wiggly line up and down, it's all more like 200 or 300 years because now the line is longer. If I stretch that line, that wiggly line, it's covered more distance. And so Reiki is very similar. You can spend a lot of time trying to find where you should be by going in a straight line, or you can cover a lot of distance and use a lot of time if you go all over the place to find point A to B. You can go to lots of different places. And so it's up to the person. It's an individual choice. There's no right and wrong for this one. It's what the person wants to do.
So is my understanding correct that the first part you said was about when you find a master, or if you want to go to the master level, it's an apprenticeship approach where you have to
Correct.
be following this master, and you better find a master that aligns with your specific type of Reiki that you want to do, that
Correct.
matches your individual mission or calling. Because if they're, say, working with one type of group of people or situation and you want to work with a different type, then they're not the right master for you. And that relates to relativity, because if you just went, I'm going to find a master, any old master will do, that's the straight line. Whereas if you go, okay, let me get this right and find some alignment and go to the person where I'm going to make those quantum leaps towards the vision that I have for myself, that's the squiggly line. Did I understand that correctly?
That is correct. No different if I want to go and find a new microwave. I can just jump online and go to, I think it's reviews, one of my favorite things I love on the internet. Do a review on a Westinghouse and then everybody complains about it. Okay, well, obviously that model's pretty crap. So do a review on a Sony Model 220. Whoa, look, everybody's talking about this. It's great. So this is no different. Why a Reiki practitioner who wants to become a master is, there's a responsibility that you will go to another step. And those responsibilities also require you to do specific things to go find that suit. Obviously, it would be helpful if you know what suit you're going to be wearing before you head off. But there are no hard, fast rules with Reiki. And once we get to some of the other questions, this one will be answered. The answer for this will turn up.
Yeah, this also leads me to we're talking about how currently we're talking about level 3 and then the differences in that, and then, finding your suit. And so what my question to you, Dave, is what got you interested in Reiki to begin with? And even if you want to share with how you got started with Reiki, that'd be very interesting to hear.
Yes, thanks, Bianca. That's another awesome question. Yes, look, I bumped into it in a similar way that you and I bumped into each other at a funeral. I was somewhere, in San Francisco, there's a part of the Bay which is very similar to Melbourne, which has I think it's Port Melbourne to St Kilda, and then I think Auckland has something similar. It's where you are walking along a part of a walking track, and then you have the joggers, you have the e-bikers, you have the scooters. It's quite a wide stretch, and then you have just the people who want to walk, and so it's a wide sidewalk that's divided up, and then if you look, you'll see out across the bay. And so
San like Kohimara here.
Yeah, it could be somewhere out
It's where the walkers, you see them all the time. They're out there walking, the rollerbladers, you name it. And they're all out there in their fancy leotards, you name it. They have their headphones on. They're in another zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so San Francisco has one of those, because I noticed that Ruth has got the Golden Gate Bridge out there. And near Pier 52, I was walking out there and looking out across. The other side of Golden Gate Bridge is the Bay Bridge, which you just look at. And I bumped into someone.
Wow.
And she was walking two dogs, two poodles. And we just started chatting, and they invited me to this. Now, let me just wind up. San Francisco is the gay LGBTQ capital of the US. Very friendly people. This person invited me to a Reiki, not a workshop, it's just a place where you can get a free Reiki. It's just a
Reiki
big
share?
Reiki share. It's just a big old you have them and it's where people go and they bowl. What do they call those?
Bowling alley?
No, the little black ball, and they throw them and they bowl it.
Oh, pool table.
elderly people
bowling.
have it.
Oh, lawn bowls. Lawn
Yeah,
bowls.
lawn bowls.
Lawn bowls.
So there was like the clubhouse. And so they've rented this clubhouse to this Reiki group. And then they put all their massage tables out and you go for free Reiki. And then they have Reiki practitioners like students that are learning. They've got level 2s and they've got masters there. And it's just a place, I guess, to get a free Reiki, but they get to practice their wares and tears. And so I went along to it. I thought they were a bunch of nutcases. Totally. I was just like thinking, this is Looney Tunes. Like, some person puts their hands on me and starts thinking they know me. Like, what the heck? But I got to know the young lady that I bumped into, got to know her quite well. And so she convinced me to go back. And there was something about this that just intrigued me. It was like, it was just something about it that somewhere inside of me, I don't know, I suppose an aha moment or some light bulb started clicking to explore this. There was a part of me that really liked it, and the other part was the logical bit, probably the head, like thinking, this is a whole bunch of Who Shot John. So I went back and continued going back, and I noticed lots of changes in me, aches and pains and other little things that started to shift. And then one of them said, would you like to do Reiki 1? I thought they were nut, especially when they told me how much it was. Somehow the money turned up within 3 weeks in my bank account. But I was doing some work and the client paid me up front. Like normally I have to wait 30 days, but they paid up front, so I had the money. So, so I went for it. And that's how I got started. I haven't looked back. Mind you, when I did Reiki 1, I thought the whole thing was still snake oil stuff.
Yeah. I think a lot of people could resonate with your story when they first hear about Reiki, and then they're like, it's a bunch of hogwash.
Peddling snake oil.
Yeah, it's and then someone who's skeptic like you, who was it's whatever, it's probably not real, like it's not anything. And then seems like your mind was changed as you got a little bit deeper into the practice.
So what was going through your mind when you went to level 1? Because I'm just like piecing together this story. So because you're a therapist, so you're well trained in your
methodologies,
very logical, and then you go
evidence-based.
So then the money showed up in your account, but you're still not really believing that it works. So when you went for level 1, what was going through your mind?
I was like, there goes my $360.
Yeah.
Actually, you know
was
what?
Was it just curiosity? Like, were you just really curious? Like, it can't be true. Let me prove it to be not true by going for an attunement?
To answer that question, I'll have to come to our present day, and then we can go back in time. So in present day, which is today, on your side of the planet, it's the year 2024. Looking back on my experiences as a Reiki practitioner, if I go back in time, I can see the reason why. Because Reiki is a pure form of how it works, of energy. It's not tainted by anything. There's no interruptions. There's no human intervention into it. It works in a very pure, loving form. And it's very, if you strip away all the bits and pieces of it, that's what you're left with, a very pure piece of energy that has no human intervention. It's not even created by humans. I mean, and what is energy? Let's probably just, what do they call it? Detour for, you can stick with me for 1 minute detour. Yeah?
Yep, go for it.
Yeah.
All right. So what is energy? On the basic forms, because Reiki is an energy form. So let's just say if I was to, here's my coffee cup. If I hold this coffee cup and drop it, it's going to bounce off the ground. If I hold this coffee cup and stick it out the window, it's going to hit the ground and break. And when it hits the ground and breaks, it gives off energy. And that energy is sound, and part of it is heat, and that's the basics of energy. It's all around us. Gravity is going to pull that cup. It's going to break, and it's going to go with energy. There's no way we can avoid that. Obviously, if we're in space and drop something, it's not going to fall. And so energy is just it's around us. It's everywhere. It's part of us. We are made of energy. Our structure is a form of energy, and we can't avoid that. And so when I think about my first contact with Reiki, the energy from the practitioner came in, and it is a pure form of energy that's not tainted by them, their thoughts. They're not trying to persuade me. Neither are their issues or problems entering me. The information and the energy that comes through into me is coming in through them like a hollow bone or a channel. And the changes that take place in me are for my better good. Not that even my brain or my consciousness could even go to that point. It is the energy has entered it to Dave, and now it is doing good, because that's what Reiki energy in its purest form is, a form of love, light, and good. It's going to go to the places that need to heal Dave.
I love that you mentioned this, because this does lead us into this topic of what are the benefits from having a Reiki practice, but also just being a Reiki practitioner and things like that. So I really love that you're touching on this, because this is definitely one of those things that we could explore in terms of what are the benefits, as a person receiving Reiki and as a person giving, or, being the practitioner of Reiki. What are some of those benefits? And I know you already kind of are talking about it, but I thought we would go down that route.
This is probably the part of Reiki experience that I personally absolutely always I'm humbled by it. Whenever I think about it, I just my brain is blown away by the humbleness of this of Reiki and how that energy entered into me through someone I didn't know and didn't have a clue who they were. Just some stranger providing a free service to other fellow humans. And the thing I loved about that experience way back when I first got it is it didn't matter if that individual who gave me the Reiki was having a bad day, or they were thinking about pizza for dinner, or how they're going to get home in the dark, whether they had to lock up at night, and whether the car was still out the front with the wheels on it. Made no difference. The energy entered me and started making these little changes. And you know what happened inside my Dave's brain was, there's something else there. I can't explain this one. There's no methodologies. I could go and look at abstracts or think, and it didn't align with anything inside of me and my life experience to explain what is changing in me, other than it must be this experience on this massage table where someone's putting their hands on me. The other thing I couldn't explain was, why are their hands warming up?
Yes.
Like that made no. It's like hold it. Like I could feel the heat from them. Thinking, oh no, maybe it's just me. But then I think that's not possible. How can my body heat up in a particular part that their hand is hovering over or touching? Now this gets a little bit more. There's another part to this beautiful story is then someone else steps over and gives them a hand. Now I've got these two people, and then there was a third person that turned up and started working on my hand. And I got these three people who somehow, and they didn't say nothing to. Like, it's not like, hey, Bob, come over here. This guy's like, needs a lot of work. And the word to that is I think it's intuition. I can say that now in the year 2024 as a practitioner, that Reiki has a beautiful way of refining and bringing out my intuition. It is a human thing that cannot be explained by me. I've looked at, trying to explain it. It's the ability to feel and interact with other humans without them saying a thing. They don't have to say anything. I just get an intuition, a feeling. There's lots of scientific stuff that I think comes close to it, but intuition is the awakening of my intuition way back then. Started messing with my head, and it drove me, put me down a road, and it sent me. And even though my head argued with it, it took me down a particular road to do 1 and then Reiki 2. And I haven't looked back since. So to answer the question that you said, is it allows me to connect with my intuition and feel other humans, which then becomes reciprocal, because then I have a lot more empathy for others, and they have empathy for me, and I help them, they help me, and it's a sharing between two humans. We don't know each other, but we are just simply helping each other with things. It's helped me with defining who I am, where I am, what I'm doing. It's given me a lot more faith to blindly go and do things and not question it. I find if I start questioning things, I'll talk myself out of it.
Yeah.
Wow. So your intuition was dialed up by Reiki, and now you have better relationships because of that intuition.
I've got one of those old stoves where you've got a white dial and it goes from, I think it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 6. Yeah, it's like the dial went to, like, I don't know, just off 0, but not even 1. It's just like somewhere. It was jiggling somewhere between 0 and 1, but it wasn't on 1 when I first started. It was way down low. And then it slowly dialed up over a period of time. Because the Reiki has to be used. The Reiki is a tool that is given to me, is of no use if I don't use it. And to use it, I have to interact with humans. And that interacting with humans made me a better person.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. I believe we as humans are social creatures. We need others to share my story with, hear theirs. And yeah.
I also
I'm crying at the moment because this always brings me to tears. So I have to take my glasses off, otherwise I cannot.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But, yeah,
that's so
this
beautiful.
part of the story always brings me to tears, because working with humans is one of the hardest things we as humans can do, is work with someone else. And they opened up to me. I get to open up with, like, running into Bianca. We opened up, and that's the beautiful part about this. And that is the healing part of it, is the Reiki energy moves, and it has done lots of fantastic things for me, and that I am still humbled.
I also feel like as a newbie just getting into into Reiki over the past 12 months, I've noticed that there are times where I feel like the thought of being that conduit and being that practitioner and being able to help in some way to someone else has kind of kept me in check a little bit as well. Because there was one time where, Ruth, I know you had passed on details of somebody who was in need of Reiki, and I was initially, because it was to do with a baby that I had never really done, because I'm so new to this. I wasn't sure about Reiki on babies, and as a mother, I know, like, a mother's touch is just everything to a baby who's just so dependent on you, right? And I remember feeling in that part at that time of my life, which was not that long ago, by the way. I remember feeling not about that at all, but just being in a phase of my life where I was just like, I have too many responsibilities. I'm feeling overworked. I'm feeling run down. I just want to like binge watch and just eat junk food and just do nothing, and just be a couch potato and do nothing. And then the text message came through. Then I was like, if I'm going to offer to help, then what am I doing with myself and wasting my time and like ingesting bad things for my body and like consuming television that's just junk? And so that kind of put me in check, because I'm like, no, I'm better than this. I can be productive with my time. I'm going to do this and take on this opportunity to help someone in need. So I feel like when you become that Reiki practitioner, you find yourself in situations that place you, that kind of force you to be like, to question or to look at your actions and be like, is this the best that I can be in this moment? So that was just, talking about how has, Reiki blessed your life as a practitioner. For me, it's like held me to some kind of accountability, some kind of standard that I'm like, you're better than this, Bianca. You could take a rest, but you don't have to just blob out and just waste your day. So, yeah.
Ruth, do you have any stories to share?
Well, I am not a Reiki practitioner, but just hearing Bianca's story, I was thinking it's almost like when you become a parent and you realize that your child is watching you, and so you have to be a better person for them. And it's leveling up, going to this next level where it's not all about me anymore. It's about, how can I serve? How can I give back? And if I'm bringing myself to a position where I now have that energy, that inspiration, that calling, the mission to give back and contribute to those around me, then my house has to be in order, sort of like Mother Hubbard has to have goods in her cupboard so she can serve a meal. So if we're going to be serving up this figurative meal, whatever it is that we are giving in service to humanity, then it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, but we do need some kind of order and establishment to be able to contribute. That's just it's a matter of practicality, but it's great to hear all of these different benefits. So I heard intuition, connection, accountability, and having a life path. It's so amazing. And just hearing both of you speak made me think, well, maybe I should get attuned, because even if I'm not making a business out of it as such, I can offer it to my family members and I can become more intuitive. And I would love to grow my intuition and have better connections. And it also prompted me, I wonder if you have someone in your circle who is struggling emotionally, can you send something to them for that?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Oh, wow. I could use that as a manager. In fact, this is giving me a lot of ideas.
Are we sending you down a new path, Ruth?
Well, I think it's something I could add to my toolkit, which is why
you
I
have
asked,
a lot of tools, Ruth. You have a lot of skills. And just want to point
extra
that out.
tools are always helpful.
Yeah, true.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. This is so awesome. And with the people that you've started to treat since you did your level 1 and your level 2, did you have someone that was really, really out of it, like having a really, really terrible situation, and you were able to witness a transformation from Reiki for them? I don't know how much detail you're able to share, but what would you be able to share around that in terms of what was the symptom or the condition they were struggling with, and how Reiki made that benefit for them?
I've got 2 real good stories, but before that, can I just close off on the number 3? What was the benefits?
Yeah, sure.
There is a fun side to, Reiki for me as a personal practitioner suits my personality. I probably have a more because I work as a youth worker, I'm probably more what is the metaphorically called the big kid in a human body. I tend to be like pretty goofy and do a whole bunch of things, and lots of my colleagues have always pulled me up and said I'm an idiot, or you're a human stuck in a teenage body. But that suits me. That's my calling, and it's the reason I do youth work, and it appeals to me. But there is a fun side to Reiki, which I explored since day one. I figured, this stuff is not going to, this sounds a bit maybe too heavy, so I introduced my own fun themes into it. And so what is this? So, all right, so I love my celery with hummus dip. So I can bless my celery and bless my hummus and put some energy into it and then eat it. I can bless my food, which is a Reiki blessing by I don't have to touch the fish. I can just run my hand across the top of it and give it some, Reiki energy. I love the Olympics. So in Reiki 2, where you can send energy, I will go my team. And so I'll do a quick absent healing and send that Reiki to my team. Now, look, if they win or not, who cares? It's like, they're not interested.
Extra energy support.
Extra energy into it. Yeah. And there's another thing I was watching. When Spielberg came out with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then I went on a tangent. You know how you go on a YouTube and start putting stuff in, and then things start filling up the sidebar? Mm-hmm. Anyway, it took me to aliens like Greys and a whole bunch of other things. So then I thought, you know what, I got to find this out. So I did this absent healing to see if I can track down in the universe, where are the aliens?
Wow.
And then send this information, send this Reiki out there to see if anything would come back.
Yeah.
And so,
did anything come back?
Yeah.
I'm so curious. Did you get some a sense that it was received?
It did come back, and I started reading about Barney and
aliens are amongst us.
I think it was an experience between Barney and his wife, who were driving somewhere in the US, and they got abducted, and then became a big story. And so what I'm saying is the intuition took me down this particular road, but it didn't say, hey, Dave, yes or no. It gave me the data and the information, and then it left me to make this choice. Okay, well, is it real or not? So, yeah, there's lots of fun stuff that I've done with it. Another one is, because I work in youth work, we have sports days and swimming days and stuff like that. So there are obviously students that are, not, what do they say, what do they call it, that don't want to. So I can do an absent healing and sort of send some energy to them to, energize them, to pep them up. The fun things you can do with it are unlimited. It is not a strictly, what do they call it, construct.
Sounds like so many possibilities. And Bianca, did you have something similar?
I mean, nothing similar in that respect. It was more to do with distance Reiki. That it was actually just recently I fell sick. I got really sick, and I would say this was last week. That was how recent it was. And I was talking with one of my friends online in our astrology class. We're quite a big class, and there's a few of us, and some of us do Reiki. And one of them, she was like, I just kept saying how sick I was, fever and everything. It was the flu. It was really bad. But I had to take care of the kids. I still had to work. Life went on. So I was powering through it. And she sent me some Reiki. She was like, let me just, send you. And I was like, really? Oh, thank you so much. You don't have to do that, And she's like, no, I'm going to send it to you this afternoon. I was like, all right. So she sent it to me a couple of days in a row. And I didn't think much of it. I was like, I understand how this goes. I don't hold too much expectations to what it can do, because energy is energy and it's going to do what it's going to do. Yes. And I don't want to hold any expectations to anything. So when she sent it, I just carried on my day. I kid you not, I was getting well like within like a day or two, and I was waking up feeling much better than the day prior. And I was like, Reiki it's the real deal.
Yeah.
It really, you can't deny the benefits, and just how quickly I got past that sickness. Like, it was amazing. So, yeah.
If I can just add to what Bianca said, if you're finished.
Yeah, I'm done.
You hit the nail on the head as the metaphor goes. And so, yeah, way back in my early days, there was a part of me that just couldn't explain it. And so, and yeah, inside my head, it just messed with my head. I was like, no, that was me. No, it must be my shoulder was warm. No, it wasn't their hands. They probably, yeah, they got warm hands, and maybe that's just the way it is. And so my logic started trying to find excuses as a human. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of me. And there was a point I got to where it just couldn't. It's like, nah, can't explain this.
Exactly.
And so
like,
there's
higher feelings at play here.
Yeah,
Stuff that we cannot comprehend.
That's the switchover point for me, and maybe that's where the tide shifts, or that's where the light bulb went on, or the aha moment, and then from that point onwards, I started having a belief in it, and then I stopped questioning it. So I went through some phases. In my job, the metaphor that we use for this one is we have a metaphor for this that is quite traditional. It's called norming, storming, and performing. So norming is it's normal, I'm just going to reject it. Storming is I start having the storm inside of me between the two things that are going on, and then performing is I started using it and stopped questioning it. And just trusted the intuition and went with it. Look, there are days I just question it, think, come on, like, what am I doing here? Well, what the heck's going on? I have my days, but other times I just go with it, trust it, and it's always been there for me and helped and sent me in directions that I am so blessed and so humbled to be doing lots of things that I do that I probably may have not done. And the other fellow humans that I've connected with have been, beautiful stories, absolutely beautiful stories, all of them.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said it's put you in directions that you otherwise would not have gone down. And I mean, if we are finishing up on this, I'd love to talk to you about you using your Reiki abilities to cleanse homes of unwanted spirits. Now that's definitely something to talk about, because I don't know many people who cleanse homes of unwanted spirits. So I'm dying to hear your experiences in that area of your life. Yes.
So the way I got into this is my Reiki master that tuned me in to do my Reiki 2, and I never ever went to the master's session because I didn't really think I needed it at that point in my life. Well, they just happened to be a master in house blessing, so they figured there was something in me, some skills that they could recognize as the pupil, I guess, working under the master, that that links in with house blessing. So they did ask me, and I thought they were a nutcase. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that? And so I spent 6 months with them on this training, and so they offer it as a training. That's part of the master's training session. I just didn't do the master's complete. I just did the house blessing part of their course, about 6 months long. And I had to go out into the field with them. And so this one is going to require a little bit of context before we get into it. And so my understanding of this is that we humans, we're made of energy. We're born, and at some particular point we have to pass away. And then our energy, which is our human body, breaks down because it's made of an atomic particles and structures that slowly break down over time and then release back into the universe and go back into a big cake mix and come back as something else. And the essence of us as humans is like a spiritual part, the spiritual part of me. So when I think about Dave, there is the physical part of Dave, his physical brain and neurons and all the logical stuff that work in a physical matter that follows defined universe rules that cannot be broken. Dave is made of an atomic structure, and that's it. And then once I pass away, that just ends up breaking down. But there's another part of Dave, which is a spiritual essence that doesn't break down. It's an energy form in a way that is not part of human comprehension. It is probably more like in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th dimension, 9th, 12th, for those that may believe in 30 dimensions. We humans, I just live on a flat world in a 3D dimension with time, which is the 4th. But there's other things that humans cannot answer, that science cannot answer. And so this part of house blessings is part of that. So an individual is living in a home, they pass away, their body breaks down, it's cremated, and their essence of their spiritual energy doesn't want to leave. For whatever reason, it's their choice. Human free choice is such a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to. Obviously, the best thing is to actually leave and go to where they should go, which is definitely not on the planet. Somewhere else. They have to leave the planet and go to wherever it is that they need to go.
It's interesting because we talked about that me and Ruth talked about this in this paranormal episode that we've done, and also a little bit on reincarnation as well. But yeah, this is really cool that you are bringing this up, because it's stuff that these are concepts that we have played with and talked about previously in past episodes.
Especially when you said the essence, because that's a Gnostic term. The eternal part of us is the essence. So I really like that.
Yeah. So sorry to cut you off. Continue there, Dave.
So the example here is because it's house blessings, it's a home that someone's passed away in, and they're, obviously the family's taken the body out and it's been, go to a service, but their essence has decided, you know what, I'm not going. I'm staying put right here in this home. This is my place and no one's going to take me out of it. And who cares if the body's gone? That's fine by me. And that essence will be felt as a energy form when I enter the home as the house blessing practitioner. Easy to detect, because for me, my essence detector is the hairs on the back of my neck and up my arm. They rise up as like someone's just touched, like I'm not saying that I'm not saying that they're cold, but it's like someone with an ice hand has just slapped me on the back and said, dude, get out of this home. This is my place.
This is my house. This is my territory.
Home. I know why you're here.
You're not going to get rid of me so easily.
You're not getting rid of me, dude. I'm here for good.
Yeah.
That's my detector and that's and this other weird thing is like goosebumps on my brain is the only thing I can detect. Is like suddenly I get this goosebump on my brain. Not that it's a physical thing, but if the hairs on the back of my head don't go, the arm, ears, I get this that felt sense of goosebumps on the brain, and that detects. It's like a detector that there's a presence, an energy presence in the home. Now, over the years as a Reiki practitioner, it's in order to be a good practitioner, you have to practice it. And lots of practice just means you become a little more experienced and far more. Your intuition starts to become very fine-tuned. And so for me, I walk in and I get a felt essence and a visualization of what it is that I'm dealing with. The visualization is like my little Zoom screen on the back of my head. It's like I've got this little TV camera detector on the back of my head, and I get the image of what it is that I'm dealing with. an elderly man, elderly lady, got a limp, got overalls on, got a couple of kids, or they're on their own, or was bikies, or whoever. It comes on the back of my intuition detector screen on the back of my head, probably because our visual cortex is at the back there.
Well, the pineal gland is towards the back. It's like 2/3 of the way back in the middle there. And that center is connected to what in a lot of traditions they might call internal seeing or intuition. But that imagination screen is said to be the window that you look through for that additional information. So it is towards the back of your head, definitely.
That's a beautiful description of it. That's exactly how it developed for me. Others here, they can't visualize it. Others will visualize it, but they don't hear. I have both. I have the visualization TV and the audio microphone detector that I can hear them. And it's Reiki also includes chakras. So there's the third eye chakra that starts up, the heart chakra that starts, and then the solar plexus chakra that starts. And they operate in a counterclockwise way, I suppose, that way. So my chakras go in a clockwise way, which is energy out. Well, they go in a reverse stage, and then they go the opposite way. So my chakras start going in a counterclockwise, which is energy in to me. And that's the other detector that turns up. I then detect it because my chakras start tuning in to me, and they spin counterclockwise inwards, which is now energy from the outside world coming into Dave. When they're working normally, it's the opposite, energy out of Dave into the outside world. Yeah, walk in and I can detect them. You know, obviously, their job is not to be evicted. Their job is to avoid me. They know that. They knew that before I turned up. That's how beautiful the Reiki energy is. It's a pure form of information connection. They knew as soon as I connected. So they knew as soon as the Reiki master told me I had to go to, 1090 Aviation Boulevard, Inglewood. There's somebody down there, which is just the metaphor for there's somebody in the home, as in not living. Yeah, the entity or the individual who has passed away has already detected me long before I turned up. That's how beautiful that energy works. And it's going to be with me. It's going to come in with me. And then I walk in with the energy that I'm going to be using the Reiki. Close the door behind me. I close all the doors in the home and force the individual that's there to then they have to find somewhere else in the home, because I'm going to bless room number 1, which is like the lounge room. I then close the door, walk into the next room, which is the bedroom. I bless that. And then if the entity is in there or the energy is in there, they are forced out to go to a room that's not blessed. I keep going until we have one room left. Sometimes it's the kitchen cupboard, the stove, the fridge, somewhere in the kitchen.
Wow, so they run right to the very corner, the last spot.
Yeah, it's like the last spot that hasn't been blessed. And so I go about it in sort of manner to allow them, room to, it's also lots of respect in this. It's not just about going there to get rid of someone. There's a lot of respect into it. Allow them the time to go into places. I leave something open if I have to, if I detect that. But there is a point they get to where their back is to the wall. There's nowhere to go. And then that's where they're cornered. And at that particular point, they are not interested in going. They're going to make my life difficult. They're going to argue black and blue why they should stay there.
Is this dialogue happening in your
between myself and the individual essence or essences? Because there's more than sometimes there's more than one. Yeah, I've had to have 6 sometimes that all crammed into the one room, and let's just say 1. And obviously they're going to argue with me as to why they don't want to go. I suppose the thing I've got to do is respect that, give them all the respect like a human would be. or the compassion, and I'm probably going to break out crying once I get to this. Give them all the respect and compassion that I would with a human being, and is to love them and tell them that I am not here to hurt them. I am just here to help them move on, because this is not a place they should be, and that there are loved ones up who have passed on, their family, their friends, their best friends, their relatives, everybody up there would like them to be with them together and join them, and that's where they should go. And they'll argue with me. They will just argue right down to the last, until
excuses.
Everything. And so this is probably where Reiki is such a beautiful process, is because within me and within my heart, I have love for this individual that is not passed on, and it is that Reiki pureness and love for someone that does it. And the thing about Reiki is it knows if you're being fake, it won't work. It has to be genuine. And then the individual, the essence that I'm working with, feels that genuine energy and compassion for them, and it changes them. And then I ask for the loved ones to come down, and they become present with me. And there's a beautiful process that I'm probably going to start bawling my eyes out, where the loved ones come forward, put out their hand, and it is seen as light. And the only thing I can think of that comes anywhere close to it is in a Hollywood movie where it was called Ghost, and it was his time up, and the family came down, and you could see the light, and it is the actual light that comes down from the universe, which is a pureness of light and love, that the essence then steps into with all the family members, and it goes up. And before they leave, now, when I turned up, they were ready to hit me with a baseball bat, stab me, shoot me, you name it, they were going to do it. In fact, some of the words that come out of their mouth is indescribable, that probably, that you couldn't share on podcast, but people could probably imagine those words. And then
they're really worked up.
Yeah.
They are worked up, and they're gonna. If that was a real person, they would beat me to a pulp, shoot me, stab me. They would, And then there's this essence that changes, and that last minute, where they then come to me and thank me, and we have this sharing of love for each other. Is all I can explain it. Where now they become my best friend. It's like they're now like, thanks, Dave. I didn't know this. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for cornering in this kitchen. Thank you for
showing me the light.
Yeah, showing me the light, and
for calling on my relatives.
Yeah, getting my relatives down here and showing me that that's where I'm meant to go. And as they leave, it's like that ghost movie. As they go up, I can see them, and at that point, we have this pure love for each other as humans, or as individuals, spirits,
pure essences.
However you want to describe this, there's a pure love for each other. We're ready to bash the crap out of each other. Like I was like, no, dude, you gotta go. And they're like, yeah, make me, man. I'm gonna I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna target your family. It is.
Well, just as well they turned around. If they're getting so violent. This reminds me of when we were kids. I was raised a Christian, even though I'm not anymore. We were taught a little bit alternative. It wasn't a common thing done in all the churches, but we moved quite a bit because my parents were involved in different charity projects, and they were missionaries. And so each time we would move or rent a new home, it would be a home that someone had just been living in before. And while maybe there weren't recently deceased spirits, there was this acknowledgement. Excuse me, I've got a cold.
Oh no.
I'm just struggling to talk a little bit. My nose is really blocked. There was an acknowledgement that there could be any number of spirits there that weren't necessarily due to trauma, but they were just passing through and they decided to park themselves in that dwelling place. So
they have a name, like hitchhiker spirits?
Yeah, we call them hitchhiking. So hitchhiking spirits will be spirits that when you go out from like your daily life and you go out of the house, then they latch onto you because there's a vibratory match. Like, so if you're feeling negative or spiteful or resentful, whatever is the vibratory match, that spirit goes, ooh, great minds think alike, and comes and latches on to you and just hangs, it's not inside your body, but could be hanging on your shoulder or just like next to you. And then as you move, it just follows you. So two kinds of spirits, but the spirits in a house would be just hanging around there from the previous occupants. And again, it's because of a vibratory match. Whether they like to smoke a lot of weed, then there's a vibratory match for that. Or if they watch a certain type of TV show that had a lot of violence, there's a vibratory match for that. So whatever the energy that they invited into that dwelling and created a pattern where that energy stayed and kept running those patterns in that household, then those spirits would be there. So what we did was very simple. It was similar, but not as technical and advanced as your house blessing. But when we go to a new house, we would pray at the front door and put our hands, just like in Reiki, but, we never called it Reiki. We'd put our hands on the door and pray and bless the house. Then we would go in and room by room, we would pray and bless it, except we were calling to Jesus to cast out any unwelcome spirits and cast out any spirits that didn't acknowledge Jesus Christ. So there was a very specific flavor of how the blessing was done, but it was nonetheless a blessing that went room by room. And this was something just as a kid that I thought, we called a Jericho march that was named after the March of Jericho before the city walls fell. That was a battle march. We called it a Jericho march, and we'd go from house to house, from room to room, blessing every room. And the hitchhiking spirits part was, okay, now the dwelling place is blessed. So this is a blessed zone, it's sacred. And we have our daily prayers and hymns here. So that keeps the space cleansed. But when you go out, then anything that you inadvertently invite could hitchhike back with you. So when we come to the door, we had this practice of praying and cleansing ourselves before going into the house so that anything that hitchhiked wasn't allowed through the door. Sorry, buddy, you can't come in. And then we go into the house. So when Bianca told me that you did house blessings and described it, I went, wow, this is just the same as what we were taught as kids. But I know a lot of other Christians wouldn't do that. It was like a very alternative type of where spirituality and the Christian tradition were meeting and getting mixed together. But it's very cool to hear that this is also going on under the Reiki set of practices.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
This one's just relevant to our time. Can I leave 5 open? Can we do those 3 questions? Do those 3 questions because they're really important. And then if anybody wants to go, they can. How's that sound?
Yeah, how does that sound, Ruth?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm happy if we try and fit it in 10 minutes. That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So let's go to the question: why would someone have a string of bad luck? If I think about that, me personally, that probably is really where my human mind comes up with logical ways of doing things and ignores the intuition part of me. And an example of this is I'm driving along and my intuition tells me there's a speed trap. And if you keep going, you're going to get busted and get a ticket. So I ignore that piece of my intuition, keep going, and then I see the radar gun caught, pulls me over. It's $120 ticket. Then I think to myself, darn, I should have listened to that piece
I
of
feel like we've
intuition.
all been there. We were
And I
like,
just like
I
keep
knew
not.
it. I should
Well,
have
I know I should have.
listened. Yeah.
Reiki helps with that because the Reiki helps with the intuition building to get me to trust it a lot more than my human brain and its senses. And so it's a case of using both my humanness and my Reiki intuition together so they work in a nice little partnership rather than one taking more and telling the intuition to take a back seat. They tend to be a bit more of a partner.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Totally.
What can people do to protect themselves? This one is really super important. As Reiki practitioners, we are touching and dealing with other humans and all their, I don't know how to explain this one, all their idiosyncrasies and every other thing that they've got, which also includes baggage, issues that, and the word we have for this one is called transference and countertransference. That is the technical name that we counselors would use. I walk into a room. Transference is where the client then gives me a whole bunch of grief. And then after the 1 hour session, they leave and I feel like crap. And I think, I wasn't feeling this way. It's because I've taken on the transference and I then have to know, as a Reiki practitioner, what belongs to me, what belongs to the individual or the other person. And it is my responsibility as a Reiki practitioner to say, that is not my stuff and I'm not responsible for it. It's yours. You have to take it. That's what you have to work on. That's your responsibility. I'm responsible for being the practitioner to help you and do my part. And you're responsible for cleaning up your life or doing the things you have to. And if they walk out and I never see them again, I'm not responsible for that. And that's one of the biggest things that Reiki practitioners have to learn is self-care. What is mine before they turned up and before I did this, and what is theirs that they must work on.
Can I just say how much I love that you mentioned this, because literally it was just yesterday where someone messaged me, a friend of mine messaged me and said, hey, I just read this blog on spiritual hygiene and like cleanliness, and she's like, because it's like astrology type stuff, and there's certain planets that are sitting in like my first house that make me super sensitive to my surroundings, and she's like, did you know about this? And I was just like, and I was able to confirm with her. I was like, yeah, I know about, spiritual hygiene, and like, just like you take a shower at night, you do these certain things to, cleanse yourself of the energy that you've picked up during the day that's not yours, that doesn't belong to you. So, yeah.
Correct.
I just love that you touched on this with this question on what can people do to protect themselves, and that's to practice, spiritual hygiene. It is a thing.
Absolutely. And even smudging yourself and your house as well.
Smudging.
Is such a good practice. But if, Reiki has all of these benefits and there are these other things to be mindful of, like spiritual hygiene, it sounds like Reiki is a magical bullet. Like there's so many things that it can do and it can fix your life. Surely there's a limit to it. Is there something that Reiki just can't help with, where you go, okay, no, Reiki is not for that? That's out of scope. What would that be?
Yeah, there is. If I can just share two little things for those, for the last question. One is when I was a Reiki 1, I would make it a tradition to go to the sink and wash my hands after I'd worked with someone. Don't don't have to wash the skin off, but just gentle warm water. And whilst doing that, just think of a cleansing process. Like I said, there's some smudging as a Reiki 1, just some very simple things. As a Reiki 2 practitioner, it's a little bit more of a meditation within my mind.
That's it.
And
meditation, yeah.
And in between absent healing, so if I do a healing for someone, a 10-minute break, just think of I would think about the ocean and something nice and peaceful, and then I'm ready for maybe the next, if I have another person like back to back, just some very simple things, nothing complex, nothing. You can be as gentle, as creative as you want with this particular. There's nothing unusual about it. Hospitals, doctors do this sort of stuff, and as practitioners, because we deal with humans, it is a good practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, the things that it cannot do is it is a complementary lifestyle approach. Lifestyle means that once you start Reiki, it becomes a lifestyle change, but it's complementary. And so on its own, it is not going to work. It has to be put with something. So let's say someone comes to me and they've broken their leg. Well, Reiki's not going to fix it. They have to combine Reiki with going to the doctor, get it splintered, have it fixed, take the medication, all this other stuff. Reiki with depression is not going to work on its own. You need to go to your GP, you get the antidepressants, you have your Reiki. Those two work together. Anxiety on its own is useless. Reiki on its own is useless, but put them together. You have to go and get the anxiety stuff done, go to your appointments, get all the things you have to do. And I think the last one is chiropractic. So you got a bad slip disc or something, Reiki is going to help, but it is not going to fix that physical problem. You have to combine the two, and it is not going to magically just make that back like brand new. It will help and alleviate and work in different ways, but it has to work together with its complementary mate and partner. And I think that's got the way my master explained this one. The sun comes up, it's got to go down. You cannot stop that. It works together. The sun goes up, the moon, the sun, the tide comes in, it goes out. It is a dual relationship between the two. Reiki works with anything else. It is not the tide comes in and stays there. That's Reiki. It is the tide comes in as Reiki and it goes out with something else. It is the exchange and the movement and the cycle of life that it works with it. It is not going to work on its own. That's the easiest way to explain it. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Dave.
That was very good.
Yeah.
Very informative. Thank you so much. Yeah, so this has been a great session.
I loved it.
And so much information. Just awesome to catch up with you, Dave, and
Thanks.
hear
it's been lovely.
all of your stories and experiences.
Yes, and I really appreciate your time that you've taken out of your day to be with us on the podcast, Dave, and hearing your experiences and you sharing your knowledge has just been priceless. So I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. And just to recap real quickly, just some of the things that we talked about in this episode, and we talked about what Reiki is and the different levels of Reiki. I really love this quote that you said, norming, storming, performing, which is norming, making it normal, storming, experiencing the conviction, and then performing, which is like just go with it. And then we also mentioned some of our experiences with Reiki and the benefits of Reiki, and then some of the limitations of what it cannot do. And I really, really appreciated all the information that was shared today. And so just close us off. and leave it here. I hope some of this information was helpful to our listeners out there, and just thank you all for listening. And remember that the path to your best reality is in your hands to create when you become conscious.